Good morning, students. I hope all of you are taking proper precautions related to COVID-19 and taking care of yourself. So students, today we are going to discuss our 14th chapter of the biology named Human Evolution. In this chapter we will discuss about the various theory related with the region of life and evolution, and as well as the different stages of the human evolution. Now let's begin the chapter. Now children, for many years it was a common belief that earth and all that organisms that are present were spontaneously created by god, and it was said that whatever life means, this is the species that were present on earth had been there from the beginning only, and they were never changing. However, and the theory was given, that theory was autogenesis theory, that is regarding the origin of the life. It says that the life is said to be originated from some non-living organic matter. So several theories were given regarding the origin of the life, but the two theories which came into recommendation and the people started believing also in that theories were theory of inheritance of acquired character, and the second was the theory of the natural selection. So it was agreed that the origin of the life have been a gradual process, means it is not a one-way step, it is a slowly process which has taken a lot of time, which have undergone a series of physical and chemical changes in accordance with the changing environment also. And the fossils are the sufficient example for us proving that how complex organisms have been evolved from simple lower forms. So from here the term evolution came. You have to learn this definition. What is evolution? It is a slow and a continuous, means a gradual process whereby a complex form of organisms are emerged from the simpler form through millions of years. Or in simple language we can say it's a study of how a single celled organism, after going a number of the gradual changes, went into or formed into a complex multicellular organism. So here we are going to discuss the two main theories, that is the Lamarck theory and the Darwin theory. The first theory is of Lamarck. His theory was known as the theory of inheritance of acquired character. What does he say? He said that organisms change physically when they will meet in the struggle, that is, I mean, as the change occurs in the environment, so they accordingly change with the changes in the environment, and whatever the changes they are doing under the influence of the environment, that are being passed to their offsprings. Now simple example which Darwin quoted was of the giraffe. Now children, in the earlier years the giraffe was not found to have such a high limbs as well as the long neck, as I can show you also the picture you can see in your book. So you can see in this picture also, earlier the giraffe which was found in many centuries ago, that was having a normal body structure, and because that time the vegetation was available on the ground level also, but slowly and slowly what happened, the vegetable get deteriorated, means the vegetation was just available at the top. So some of the giraffe, they extended them, they pulled their necks, and due to pulling and extending of the neck and putting more pressure on their front limbs, so their front limbs get extended and their neck also, so that they can reach the height of the vegetation and survive. So this happened. So what does Darwin notice, that according to this theory, organism who create a struggle for their existence, means the giraffe which struggled for their existence in fighting out with the environmental changes, that will develop certain, that changes are known as the variations, and that changes are being passed further to the next generation. So on that way he proposed his theory, that he proposed the idea that the evolution on the basis of the studies of the pattern of fossils also, and the matching the organism by their environment. See, he compared the living species with the fossil form and found that there exists a series of older to younger fossils leading to present day species. And from their findings he given her basically two main principles of his theory. First was that use and disuse. What does it state? That the part of the body which we are continuously using, that becomes longer and stronger, whereas the part which we are not using, that get deteriorated. So this he explained by using, taking the example of the giraffe. Already I explained you that giraffe which evolved from the ground feeding, it was the first a ground feeding herbivorous, but with the later stage, when there was a short of vegetation on the ground, then the giraffe took on the feeding from the trees, and constant stretching of the necks and the forelimb for many generations resulted in the structure becoming larger and stronger. So this is that this states the how we can, the organ which we are continuously using, that become more stronger and larger also. Second is, he says that inheritance or acquired character. It said that whatever the changes or modification an organism has done due to environmental changes, that changes will be passed on to next generation, means to their offsprings. So he postulated that this long muscular neck and the forelimbs of the living giraffe was passed on to next ancestors from their next generation, and same characters were appearing our generation after generation. Now next comes the topic vestigial organs. First of all, we should be knowing what are vestigial organs. Now children, vestigial organs are those organs that are not presently in function. They were in function in the previous, means our ancestors would be using these vestigial organs, but with the generation after generation, they are, because the activity is being stopped, so they are present in a reduced form in our body. So we can say they are just the remnants of the features that served as a function of the organism in our ancestors. Human beings are basically having three vestigial organs. The first vestigial organ is our wisdom teeth. Already you know these are the last molars which are present on each side of the both of the jaws. So wisdom teeth are supposed to be appearing at the age of 17 to 20. They does not have much function in chewing and all that, so they are smaller also and less complex. So and we hardly use them for the chewing. But earlier, when our forefathers and sisters, they were eating the raw meat, or they were feeding on this plants and leaves, there they were using this. So that's why these wisdoms and their teeth are there. But now we have changed our eating patterns. We are eating cooked food, so it doesn't require it in that form, so that's why. But still they are in our body. Second one is the vermivore appendix. Now vermivore appendix, you must have listened the name of appendicitis. Doctor says that there's a pain, the appendicitis operation would be done. Now children, this is one of a structure that projects from a blind end of the cecum. Cecum is the part of your large intestine, just a worm like tube which is present there. So you can see here the structure here. This is the worm like structure is present vermivore appendix. This is one of the vestigial organs. See, actually earlier our mode of food was we were herbivorous. So that was quite, means we were taking plants and leaves that is mainly full of cellulose. So our body need to digest the food, cellulose also. So that this organelle was helping in digesting the cellulose. But now our mode of eating food is differently changed. We are just having the glucose. So it does not require it. So thus it is present as a vestigial organ in your body. Now the last vestigial organ is a pinna. That is a lobe-like part that is present on the external ear, which simply provides a passage from the auditory canal leading to the eardrum. But we cannot move this pinna to gather the sound waves, which is its main function. But in other mammals, you can see they can move their pinna also. That was mainly how their main function is to gather the sound waves. So, but it is just a form of vestigial organ. It has no function in our human body. Now children, next we are going to discuss about the second theory that is called as the Darwin theory of natural selection. Now see, Charles Darwin, he proposed the idea of the natural selection, and his theory was also known Darwinism in 1859. See, his theory, this Lamarck theory was mainly related with the inheritance. That means mainly he's dealing with what is evolution. But this Darwin, he does not exactly want to tell what is evolution, but he want to explain that how the evolution would have occurred in the nature. So that's why his theory is based on two observable factors that we are going to discuss. First is overproduction. Now see, whether we are living beings, that can be plants and animals, all have inert desire to extend their progenies, to enlarge their generation rate, so that races can continue to live for generation after generation. And it has been observed that most of the individuals are produced to the increase the chance of their survival. Means the population is just increasing of that organism for their chances of their survival. Like just see oysters. So see, they are laying the eggs, just about 60 to 18 million eggs are being laid by the single sperm. Just imagine if all the eggs would have hatched and all the young one would have survived a generation after generation, then their shells would be of the size of full earth. Means our full earth would be covered with the shells of the oyster. But that is not there. Similar manner, paramecium also divides the weight of the 3 times in 48 hours. If all would have survived, then its mass would be approximately 10,000 times that the mass of the earth. But however, regardless of their this much fast rate of reproduction of every species under natural conditions, the number of hairs is of every species that remain roughly constant over a longer period of time. That is, means it keeps a balance with the environment. So second, he says the struggle for existence. Now Darwin says that although there is a very fast rate of reproduction, that every individual multiply in a geometric ratio. Means whatever the rate of reproduction, that is geometric ratio. But while the space, because they need some space to live also, and they need food also to sustain, that remain constant. So there started a struggle for existence, because so that all, it is not possible for all to get the nourishment, so there will be a fight between them. That fight is named as a struggle. And in this struggle, there will be an intense competition between the organism for the favorable shelter, climate, food supply, and breeding places. And this competition between the members of same species, that led to a struggle for existence. And if the competition occurs between the same species, that is known as intraspecific. And if it occurs between the members of the different species, that is known as intraspecific. So when the struggle occurs, the species which do some variation means some modifications, and that win that battle, they will survive while other will be killed. So here comes the term variation. Means we can say variation is actually the basis of the evolution. So the struggle for existence for among the organism can be compelled to, means whosoever will adapt themselves to according to the changes. Like as we adapt, whenever the winter comes, we start wearing the heavy woolen clothes. Whenever the summer comes, we start wearing the very soft cotton clothes. So these are our modifications which we have done to survive successfully. We have done adaptations. So because of this adaptation, it is difficult to find any of two individuals alike. So even the one progeny, so even the one species of the same generation also, just you take your family members only, you must be having your brother and sister, but all have some dissimilarities in their face, this color, height, size. So they will be not be exactly alike. So such differences that are known as the variations. So these variations may be harmful also, or these can be advantages, means they can be benefit also. So harmful variation will make it uh, unfit for the struggle, whereas the good variation, that will make favorable for the struggle. And so then comes the, you must have listened this proverb, survival for the fittest. Means during that struggle, only those individuals will survive which will have advantages, adaptation or variation. Which are without that variation, which will not opt any adaptation, they will not survive. And nature will only choose that generation only, or that species only, who will adapt according to the changes in the nature. So that's why his theory is also termed as a theory of the natural selection. So as the environment changes, new advantages get selected in nature, and after many generations, sufficient character would after so on be passed on to next generation. So origin of the new species, by some gradual modification, gradual changes, that is termed as the speciation. And one important example is being explained here, that is very important. In the board also this question can come. This is a crab, peppered moth, that is the Biston Betulia. So the moth with its light colored wing with dotted with the spots that blended well, as you can see here, with the lichens growing on the houses and the tree trunk on which it rested. But there was also another variety with the darker wings also. One was with the lighter, other was with the darker wing. Now the darker variety was rare in 1850 in Manchester area, because it was basically because it was a dark area, so birds can easily identify them because of their visible black wings. But the light colored moth, that was seen in the large number, because that they are they cannot be concealed, or they remain hidden while resting on the houses or tree trunks. So this was observed in industrial revolution, but after industrial revolution in Manchester, the entire situation changed. The pollution in this area, whatever the lichens were, that caused the death of the lichens and darkening. After that, what happened, the tree trunk also get darkened with the soot also. So now the dark variety was better hidden, because the trees also become dark, so they became hidden in that area, and the lighter one could easily be picked by the birds. So nature selected the agencies of the bird and light colored moth easily because of the prey. So in this way, firstly who was surviving, they became now the victim. So this remains the theory of the natural selection. Now children, here one difference is given between the theory of Lamarck. This is very important question. So these three main are, that is, this theory is known as a theory of inheritance or acquired character. This is known as theory of natural selection. It believes on the use and disuse, and that changes are being passed further. But it believes that variation occurs in us, only that will be fittest for the survival, who will win in the struggle for existence. And it says that new species will evolve after a long period of time, after many generations acquiring new characters. And it says that new species will evolve only to the changes of the favorable characters over a long period of the time. After that, some modification was done in the Darwin theory, and that was termed as Neo-Darwin's theory, but that is not in your syllabus, so we will not discuss that. Now next we are going to discuss about the human evolution. Now children, next topic which we are going to discuss is the human evolution. See, already we are, Carl Linnaeus has given a binomial naming structure we are discussed in the 9th class. So he given humans as a name as a Homo sapiens in the animal kingdom. Our modern man is also belong to this order. Now see, the story of man's origin and evolution is being recorded in the rocks in the form of the fossil. From there they have done the scientific and find out the record that how the human beings have been evolved from the primitive organism. It was said that our man have been originated from the ape. So the man was supposed to be originated from some apes like ancestors, just as you can see, which is having a height of 15 to 20 million years ago. And these ape-like ancestors serve as a common ancestor both for apes also as well as humans. So if we talk about ape-like structures, some changes were required which we have to name. So you can see, first the apes, they were using all their four limbs, but we have a bipedal locomotion, means we are just using our hind limbs on which we are standing. So bipedal locomotion and freeing of the forelimbs for the ground. Then increase in the cranial activity, means our thinking, reasoning, that. Then is reduction in the size of canine, because earlier we were having, organism used to eat on a raw meat and all that. Then loss of jaw power also. Development of chin. See this, you can see in monkeys they were not having any chin, but in the human being chins are there. Then development of a forehead and the brow ridges, increase in height, erect posture for development of the lumbar curve. Then is the reduction in the body hairs. So now after learning about this human ancestor, so full detailed structure was studied about the pre-human ancestors. So from there they make a chart, various stages. You must have seen in the Science City also, this is being shown there, of the human evolution. So first it was said that we going to have that the different stages are there of human ancestor during evolution. First is like Ramapithecus, that is the apes only, we can say, which walk erect on the blind feet and is known only by the few teeth and some fragments of the jaw, which were obtained as the fossils. After that came the Australopithecus, then Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and Cro-Magnon. Then finally the modern man, that is the Homo sapiens. Now, children, of every this there are different characters are being shown given in your book. Just go through it. You point out it at the last page that difference is also being given. So you have to learn that. So because in the paper they can ask you question regarding the features, or they can give you any picture of that particular species, and they can ask the give its characters or what were the changes that have been notified in this organism. So you can look here, this table is given where all the features are given. We are discussing the cranial capacity, size of canine, forehead or brow ridges, development of chin, body hairs, and height and posture. Just go through this table, learn their points. It will be easy for, and children, remember this chapter is a new addition in the syllabus. So go through this chapter carefully and then solve the exercise. Thank you. Have a nice day.